Look at how beautiful it is. Sun's coming up. Might actually catch it in this video. But anyway, I want to talk about making decisions, because it can bring with it a lot of anxiety. But you see, when you think about it, how do you make a decision? Like, what do you do when you make a decision? Like, do you first decide to decide? No, I mean, it just comes naturally. It pops up just like a hiccup. It's almost as if it's out of your control. It's like asking, how do you move your hand? But you don't know. I mean, you move it, but how do you move it? No idea. I mean, isn't that crazy? Just a side note, that you move your body, you circulate your blood. I mean, is you doing that? Or you doing that? Who's doing that? One of the very interesting questions is who are you? Are you doing all of this stuff? Anyway, back to the decisions. So you see, the thing is that in every situation there are infinitely many variables that come into play when making a decision. I mean, when you think rationally, you take into account all of the different things that could happen and all of the variables that play in here into this situation. But there are infinite many situations, and you will always leave out information. So you see, worrying is about trying to get as much information and variables as possible, but not realizing that they are infinite. And if you do try to get as much as possible, I mean, you're stuck in one place. You're not making the decision. And how we eventually do decide is, we think about some stuff, we take in some variables, and then when it comes to act, we make a decision on some kind of gut feeling. Of course, I'm just making fun out of it. We do make good decisions sometimes on rational grounds, but even when we think rationally and make decisions rationally, we leave out so many things that we don't even thought about. I mean, when making, for example, I'm thinking about making some kind of business contract with another business as a business owner. You go through all the financial details and everything, but you didn't consider that the other guy, the other CEO, might slip on a banana peel, hit his head, and be completely stupid, completely unfunctional as a human. I mean, how could you take this into consideration? But that could happen. So you see, there are infinitely many variables. And another thing is that, how do you know if you've made the good decision? How? Well, based on the consequences of that decision. But the consequences for how long? Because you see, maybe I decided to come to this university, and on the first couple of years it turns out to be a great thing. But after 10 years it turns out that it was a horrible thing. But after 20 years it turns out, or I don't know, after some time, it turns out that here at this university I met my future wife, or something like that, my future partner. So you see, is it good or bad? Or let me tell you another story, because you see, this is this thing that we don't really know, and is told beautifully in the story of the Chinese farmer. You see, there is a farmer that lost his horse. He just ran away, and then the neighbors came around and told the Chinese farmer that, oh, this is such a bad luck that your horse ran away. We're so sad. And the Chinese farmer said, well, maybe it is. And then the next day, his horse came back with 5 more wild horses. Great luck, said the neighbors when they came around. And the farmer said, well, maybe. And then the next day, when the farmer's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses, he was riding on it, but the horse threw him off his back and he broke his leg. So the neighbors came around and told him, what bad luck, and it's a bad fortune. And the farmer said, well, maybe, we'll see. And then the next week, a war broke out, and enrolling warriors or whoever, the enrolling people came around looking for people to get into the army. But because the farmer's son was incapable of fighting because of his broken leg, he didn't get enrolled. And the neighbors came around and said, "Ooh, wow, what a great fortune." And the Chinese farmer said, "Well, maybe." So you see, this story illustrates really greatly that we don't know if our situation is good or bad. Or what's happening is good or bad, because how do we know? Good or bad for what? But you see, one thing is good. Oh, how do I say this? I mean, for example, the snails, for example, or the little insects in the garden, they can be really annoying for the gardener. But those little insects are actually good for plants. They that eat them up. You know, the insects, the snails that eats the lettuce. It keeps down the lettuce population. Otherwise, they would just overgrow and everything would go crazy. The thing is that one thing could be good for one being, and at the same time be bad for another being. So is it good or bad? Well, none of it. So you see, you just can't predict the future. Everything is changing. It's constantly changing. So you see, I'm making a decision. It's not just about gathering facts, because there is infinitely many facts. It's also about your gut feeling and just going with it. It's like, you see, how did I want to say? Anyway, let's just take a break a little bit. See the sunrise. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So you see, you cannot gather all of the information for making a decision. And also, how would you know when you've gathered enough information? Of course, let's say that you cannot gather all the information, but how do you know when you got the relevant information, enough information? You don't. So, you see, whether you decide this or that, it's not good or neither bad. It's neither good or bad. It's just a decision, and it's just go on, just flow with it. But don't block. Don't stand there, you're in line and you're thinking about what to eat, and you've been sitting there for 10 minutes and the line got so long. People are becoming angry at you, even the guy serving you. Don't block. Just decide when the time comes on some kind of gut feeling or some kind of rational idea, whatever. Decide. It's just like with flowing with the river. If you flow against it, there is some. It's hard flowing against it, but either way, you will flow along with it. But it's easier if you flow with it already. So yeah, that's about it. Look at how beautiful it is. And also, don't take all of this too seriously. I mean, we can so easily forget the fact that we are just here alive, and how crazy this is. And all of this is not that serious, and that how many things are just conventions, or that the humans have made, that we take so seriously. Like time, for example. There is only this moment. Let's not get into that. Beautiful sunrise. Yeah, that's about it. Goodbye.